Russia thought it was destroying real tanks. Turns out they've been blowing up plywood and plastic. The UK is now sending IKEA-Style decoy tanks to Ukraine. Flat-packed fakes that pop up fast, look deadly from the sky, and lure Russian forces into wasting missiles, shells, and drones on literal battlefield bait. It's not just clever, it's humiliating. And it's working. Russia is taking the bait, celebrating fake kills and exposing their own positions in the process. Even worse, for every 5 real tanks the UK sends, they're sending 30 fakes. The result? Russian troops are being tricked, trolled, and demoralized on a scale we haven't seen in modern war. Because when your enemy can turn cardboard into chaos, you've got a problem. For one, this is humiliating Russian troops in the field, further demoralizing forces that are being ground down by Ukraine's successful deployment of actual drones and tanks. Russia has also suffered significant embarrassment, announcing that they have destroyed important targets, only for Ukraine to announce that they were mostly valueless decoys. The war in Ukraine is revealing what war will look like in the future. At the start of the war in 2022, Russia is estimated to have deployed around 3,400 tanks and other self-propelled artillery, with Ukraine able to field less than 1,000. These tanks, supported by foot troops, were always going to do the heavy lifting in a war that is about acquiring and holding territory, something that air power, missiles, and drones alone can't do. This has made tanks and self-propelled artillery some of the most valuable assets on the battlefield. Consequently, Ukraine has been scrambling to build its battalions, importing tanks and artillery from Western allies. It's grown its battalions to around 1,600 today, believed to include 1,114 tanks and 658 self-propelled artillery pieces. Meanwhile, Russia has been struggling to hold on to its munitions advantage. According to updated data from the Dutch OSINT defense website Oryx, Russia has lost a total of 3,983 tanks since the start of the full-scale invasion, including 2,905 destroyed, 159 damaged, 386 abandoned, and 533 captured. The heavy tank losses are primarily due to Russia using older Soviet-era tanks, which are no match for Ukraine's modern technology. It's estimated that a significant share, possibly as high as 75% of Russia's tank fleet, consists of older Soviet models, such as the T-55, T-62, and T-72. Despite common assumptions, the numbers in these designations do not represent the year of production, but rather indicate the model series. For instance, T-54 began production as early as 1947. The tanks that Russia is bringing out of storage to replace losses are old tanks that have been refurbished. Secondly, swift advances left logistical teams unable to keep up the support requirements of self-propelled artillery, leaving them isolated and vulnerable to attacks, especially now the sound of drone propellers has become commonplace on the battlefield. Both Ukraine and Russia now launch millions of drones, both as reconnaissance tools to identify valuable tank assets and as destroyers with small warheads attached that can be dropped on tanks from above. Consequently, tanks on both sides are more vulnerable than ever. However, Ukraine has benefited from its access to more modern NATO-supplied equipment, particularly advanced artillery systems, which can be rapidly deployed, fired, and relocated, reducing vulnerability to counterattacks. While this shoot-and-scoot tactic is more characteristic of artillery than tanks, it underscores the broader logistical and tactical advantages Ukraine holds in certain areas of the battlefield. When it comes to drone-filled skies, Ukraine also has the advantage. They have more drones and they are more sophisticated and better adapted to current battlefield tactics. This is largely because Ukrainian drones are being developed by independent contractors and volunteers who innovate quickly to adapt to the changing military landscape. Russian drones are centrally manufactured, limiting innovation and the variety of drones available. With so many drones in the sky, it can be hard to know who's operating them, but with Russia's drones being more consistent in design, they're easier to spot and target. But Russia far outstrips Ukraine when it comes to the amount of artillery available. As well as entering the war with a significant stockpile, Russia currently produces around 3 million artillery shells annually, according to NATO intelligence estimates. In contrast, the United States and Europe together have only been able to supply about 1.2 million shells per year to Ukraine. This disparity means that while Russian forces can afford to fire at nearly any identified target of value, Ukrainian forces must be more selective, weighing the strategic importance of a target before expending their more limited munitions. This is where the decoys come in. Decoys can trick Russian forces into expending valuable resources to destroy cheap replicas, and also revealing the positions of their munitions for counterattack. The firing tank or artillery reveals itself to be a genuine target. More generally, the decoys can add considerable confusion on the front lines, making it difficult for the enemy to quantify the size of the enemy's battalions, understand their distribution, and predict which regions are being prepared for major operations. Decoys are nothing new in warfare. They've been used since ancient times to trick adversaries into misallocating resources or revealing their positions. On ancient battlefields, commanders would sometimes hide a portion of their men ready to flank the enemy mid-battle and make their main force seem larger, evading suspicion, using a variety of decoy tactics. The British used dummy versions of their Mark I tank in World War I, rudimentary models made from wood and canvas. They were intended to mislead the Germans about the strength and positioning of British armor. In World War II, an elaborate Allied deception plan called Operation Fortitude, or the D-Day deception, aimed to convince the Germans that the main invasion would occur at Pas-de-Calais rather than Normandy. A key element involved the creation of the fictitious 1st US Army Group, supposedly stationed in southeast Britain. To this end, they deployed thousands of inflatable rubber tanks, trucks and aircraft that were moved by night to simulate shifting formations. There were also fake landing craft positioned in harbors facing Pas-de-Calais and an entire dummy airfield constructed, all supported by misleading radio traffic. During the Cold War, NATO developed more sophisticated decoys with radar-reflective materials and infrared signatures to mimic real equipment more effectively. To date, both Ukraine and Russia have employed decoys as part of their wider battle tactics in the war. Ukraine deployed wooden and inflatable decoys of high-value equipment like rocket launchers, artillery pieces, and even fighter jets. Russia has also used decoys, including painting aircraft on airfields to confuse Ukrainian attacks and inflatable replicas of tanks and air defense systems. But these decoys have not always been successful. Earlier in the year, a Ukrainian drone was investigating what appeared to be a group of Russian T-72 tanks. While they were convincing from a distance, when the drone got closer, their rounded corners revealed them to be inflatable decoys. But the new decoys being made by the UK's task force Kindred, the Ministry of Defence's effort to supply Ukraine with equipment, are much more convincing than the inflatable decoys that have been used in the past. They look just like the real thing, even from as close as 25 meters. This was necessary as technology has gotten increasingly adept at identifying inflatable decoys. They're being made by taking digital images of real equipment and printing them on undisclosed special materials, though they are likely durable and potentially reflective. False heat signatures have long been applied to decoys since many trackers use heat sensors. These new decoys may have even more sophisticated technology, which the task force is not revealing to the public, to extend the amount of time that Russia will need to identify them. However, balancing the cost of manufacture with non-detectability will remain an ongoing issue. The new UK decoys are being called IKEA Decoys because they're being sent to Ukraine in flat packs to be quickly and easily assembled in the field. It's now estimated that for every 5 real tanks the UK sends to Ukraine, it's sending 30 fake ones, with models principally being made of the AS-90 Braveheart and Challenger 2 tank. Referring to the real artillery that the UK sends to Ukraine, Squadron Leader Laurie Simner from the Royal Air Force explained, "We haven't gifted a huge amount of these, so anything we can do to make the quantities look greater on the front lines is advantageous to us." What kind of tanks are the UK copying and sending to Ukraine? Since the start of the war in Ukraine, the UK has been gradually transferring AS-90 self-propelled howitzers to support Ukraine's artillery capabilities. These deliveries began in 2023 and continued with additional tranches in April and September 2024, amounting to approximately 68 units. Then in March 2025, the UK announced it would formally retire all AS-90s from active service after more than 30 years with the British Army, despite earlier plans to keep them operational into the 2030s. At its peak, the UK operated 89 AS-90s between 2016 and 2022, though only a portion remained in active use at the time of the transfers. The AS-90 Braveheart 150mm self-propelled howitzer was developed by Vickers Shipbuilding and Engineering and manufactured by BAE Systems for the British Army, entering service in 1992. Designed to deliver accurate and sustained offensive firepower, the AS-90 became the backbone of British land artillery operations. It was notably deployed during the Iraq War in 2003 and regularly featured in NATO exercises across Europe. The Braveheart ideally needs a crew of 5 to manage its howitzer, which has a maximum firing range of 24.7 kilometers or 15.3 miles with standard ammunition and 30 kilometers or 18.6 miles with extended range ammunition. It can fire at a burst rate of 3 rounds in fewer than 10 seconds, 6 rounds per minute for 3 minutes in intense mode, and can sustain a firing rate of 2 rounds per minute. The AS-90 carries a total of 48 munitions, 31 of which are stored in the turret bustle within 4 magazine modules. The remaining 17 are stored in the hull for reloading. While it has a more limited range than newer howitzers, the gun is still valued for its accuracy. It does not require stabilizing spaces because it's equipped with a recoil and a hydro-gas suspension system that allows the turret to traverse and fire through the full 360-degree range. It also features a dynamic reference unit and electronic compensation for the tilt of the vehicle. It has a secondary armament of a 7.62mm L7 general-purpose machine gun. The belt-fed gas-operated fully automatic weapon can also be removed from the vehicle and mounted on a tripod to be used by foot soldiers. The vehicle itself is built on its own dedicated chassis. It's made of all-welded steel, which is rated to withstand impacts of 7.62 and 14.5mm armor-piercing shells and 152mm shell fragments. It also features increased ballistic protection against attacks from above. In total, the AS90 is 9.7 meters in length, 3.3 meters in width, and 3 meters in height, giving it a total weight of 45 metric tons. It runs on a Cummins VTA903T 660 bhp V8 diesel engine, which allows it to travel up to 55 kilometers or 34 miles per hour, with a range of 370 kilometers or 229 miles, utilizing 4 forward and 2 reverse gears. It can traverse gradients up to 60% and ford water to a depth of 1.5 meters or 5 feet. While the full 1990s procurement program cost around $480 million for 179 units, the cost of a single AS90 is significantly lower. Even so, each loss remains a major blow to Ukraine's artillery battalion. According to the latest figures from Oryx, 17 AS90s have been lost in Ukraine to date, 11 destroyed and 6 damaged. Sending all their AS90s to Ukraine does not leave a gap in the UK Army's artillery, as they are transitioning to the Swedish-designed Archer system, which will serve as a bridge until the introduction of the RCH-155. The Archer has also been deployed to Ukraine, with 8 sent in November 2023 and an additional 18 are promised in 2025. The Archer is also a 150mm howitzer built on a robust 6x6 Volvo A30D articulated dump truck chassis. It carries 21 complete preloaded rounds, which means that a team of 3 to 4 can operate the weapon from the pressurized and reinforced compartment, or a single crew member in extreme circumstances. The speed with which the Archer can be deployed and then moved is its defining characteristic for battlefield effectiveness. It needs less than 30 seconds for the operators to receive orders to bring the vehicle to a halt, automatically position it for action, and fire the first round. Once the fire mission is complete, it can rapidly displace within another 30 seconds, with a maximum firing range of 50 kilometers or 31 miles. It can fire up to 8 rounds per minute and automatically change the firing tilt so that the first 4 to 6 rounds land simultaneously, depending on the range. This means that the crew can pack up and move just as the first round is being detected, which limits the possibility for counterattack. It's reported that no Archers have yet been lost in action in Ukraine, despite it being considered a high-value target. The British Army had 14 Archers in July 2024, each worth around $14 million. These are acting as a stopgap while a joint UK-German program develops the remote-controlled howitzer 155mm wheeled artillery system, known as the RCH-155. This was developed by the German arms industry company KNDS. It's designed with a high level of automation and features a remotely operated gun module, which allows it to be operated by a minimal crew of 2, a commander and a driver. While not fully autonomous or remote-controlled at this stage, it's built for future upgrades to enable such capabilities. The system is based on the Boxer 8x8 wheeled vehicle. It will be equipped with 30 ready-to-fire projectiles and 144 modular charges for reloading and a firing rate of over 8 rounds per minute. It will have a range of 24 to 33 miles, with longer ranges possible with specialized ammunition. With a combat weight of 40 metric tons, it will have a fast road speed of up to 62 miles per hour and a range of 434 miles. Approximately 54 RCH-155s are expected to be delivered to Ukraine, with the first units already received in Germany for training and scheduled for deployment to Ukraine later in 2025. Meanwhile, the British Army is awaiting an initial order of 77 units. This number may be expanded to a battalion of almost 300. Each RCH is estimated to cost around $12 million to make. It's unclear whether decoys of the Archer and RCH will also make their way to Ukraine. The other equipment that the UK is currently replicating for decoy purposes is the Challenger 2 tank, which plays a critical role in armoured warfare. Since the start of the war, the UK has also sent Ukraine 14 Challenger 2 tanks. These have been considered the British Army's premier main battle tanks since they were introduced in the 1990s, designed for both firepower and survivability. The tank uses composite armor considered among the world's most advanced, with second-generation Cobham armor, known as Dorchester Level 2, providing excellent protection for the 4-man crew. This is part of the reason it weighs a whopping 62.5 metric tons. The turret houses a 120mm L30A1 rifled gun, which is distinct among NATO's tanks, which usually use smoothbore guns. This enables the Challenger 2 to fire a variety of different ammunition types with great precision, including high-explosive squash-head rounds and armor-piercing, fin-stabilizing, discarding sabot rounds. It's equipped with a sophisticated fire control system that includes stabilized panoramic sight and thermal imaging, allowing the tank to engage targets at a distance exceeding 5 kilometers with high precision. It also has a coaxial 7.62mm chain gun and a 7.62mm L37A2 machine gun mounted on the commander's hatch. Powered by a V12 diesel engine, the tank has a maximum speed of 36 miles per hour on roads and 24 miles per hour off-road. with a range of 279 miles. The hydropneumatic suspension system offers excellent stability and maneuverability across varied terrains. Each Challenger 2 tank is estimated to cost between $5 and $9 million to produce, and at least 4 have now been confirmed lost in Ukraine. The first was destroyed by a Russian Kornet anti-tank missile near Robotyne in September 23, with subsequent losses occurring during operations in August 24 and January 25. These include strikes from a Lancet loitering munition and an FPV drone, underscoring the vulnerability of even heavily armored tanks to modern anti-tank and drone warfare. It's unclear how much each decoy created by Task Force Kindred costs, but it will certainly be a tiny fraction of the cost of either a Challenger 2 or an AS-90. Task Force Kindred doesn't just produce decoys for Ukraine, it's a special unit of the Ministry of Defense, established in March 2022, with the specific purpose of identifying equipment from UK stockpiles that might be suitable for deployment in Ukraine, making recommendations for ministerial approval, and providing guidance to the Ukrainian military on how to use the donated equipment effectively. With a team of around 20 crew to date, Task Force Kindred has given an array of supplies to Ukraine, including 300 jamming and anti-jamming electronic systems, essential for engaging in the increasingly intense drone warfare in Ukraine. Because of the threat of jammed radio signals, drone developers are creating drones featuring automatic frequency jumping. However, the next big step forward will be the AI-powered drones that don't need to connect back to base for orders. Kindred has also sent 6 Stormer vehicles fitted with Starstreak missile launchers that fire short-range surface-to-air missiles. These can be used as man-portable air defense or integrated into heavier systems. They are designed to counter threats from low-flying aircraft with a range of up to 5 miles. In addition, Kindred has provided over 12,000 anti-tank weapons, including NLAWs, Javelins, and Brimstones. The Javelin is an anti-tank guided munition that can be carried by a single soldier. Once the Javelin is launched, it guides itself and launches a top-down attack to hit a tank from above, where it's most vulnerable. It also uses a tandem charge to circumvent the tank's explosive reactive armor. It has a range of up to 3 miles, and the Javelin has been credited with helping to convince Russia to withdraw from most of Ukraine's major cities. These powerful weapons, combined with highly realistic decoys, might create a condition so confounding for Russia that it may have to rethink its entire strategy. But what do you think? Will Ukrainian decoys have the desired effects of confusing Russian forces and draining munitions? Or will Russia find a way to detect these new decoys before they have a chance to make a major dent in Russian artillery stockpiles? Let us know what you think in the comments, and as always, thank you for watching.